Good morning and happy Wednesday, folks. William Tramp, also known as This FNGM here, ready to talk to you about Encounter Party, Episode 6. Episode 6 was a delightful start to a brand new arc, but before we get into me telling you all about it, I should mention that there's going to be spoilers in this video. There are always spoilers in this video. We should know this by now. But if you don't want to deal with spoilers, you should check out one of my other videos, like that one right there. It's amazing. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started here. Hit it, Tommy! Episode 6 of Encounter Party, Six-Way Split. The name 6 also has the 6th episode. Okay, Episode 6 takes us off of the Cherry Wind and into the city of Baldur's Gate. You might remember the city of Baldur's Gate from the very famous video game Baldur's Gate 2. Through the perspective of each character, we learn more about who they are and what their motivations are as they arrive in the city to their specific destination. The first character we follow is Flick. We learn nothing about Flick. Flick's wandering blind but has a secret. We will see that later. Bye, Flick. So the real first character we follow is Vin the Human Warrior. Vin is headed to the upper portion of the city because Vin's got money. And there we see his palatial estate, but it's all boarded up and the lawn hasn't been mowed. Oh, it turns out something's going on. Vin heads up to his ancestral home, peeks in through the boards and sees a mysterious candle that snuffs out when he calls out. So he pulls out his keys, walks inside, and discovers that the entire place is bare. All of his stuff is gone. His parents' stuff is gone. Well, it doesn't take long for the candle holder to reveal themselves. It's Cardabel. Cardabel is a gnome servant, I believe, that works for Vin's family, or at least worked for Vin's family. It turns out Vin's father has died, and he's come back to settle the estate. His mother has died too. Vin is an orphan. So Cardabel begins to fill Vin into what's been happening. Despite the fact that somebody, we're not sure, somebody though, sent Vin a message saying that he needs to come back to settle his father's estate, we learn that Vin's uncle has taken over, pronounced Vin dead, and the estate is now his. I guess the uncle has now taken everything out of the estate, but hasn't yet taken over, so there's something unfortunate happening here, something very Shakespearean, I believe, happening in this situation. Vin vows to get to the bottom of this situation, and from there, we move on to Dridian and Asher. Two of them find themselves staying at the same hostel near the docks. It's not great, and it's kind of expensive. They do try to negotiate the price down a little bit, but it doesn't work quite so well. After Dridian and Asher retire to their room, they strike up a conversation to get to know each other a little bit more. Now, to my knowledge, this is the first time that these two characters have really interacted one-on-one, and it's a pretty interesting dynamic. Both of them seem to be willing to give some information about their family lives. Dridian is an only child, and we learn that Asher has numerous brothers and sisters. We also learn that from Dridian, the story of his people, in which Corlon, the god of the elves, had his blood spilt by Grumsh, god of the orcs, and this blood led to the creation of the elven people. Now, both of these two really kind of hold their cards close to their chest. Dridian says he's here on business. Asher says she's here to visit her sister. As they go to rest for the evening, Asher pulls out a letter that she received from her sister. We are not made aware of the contents, but Asher has a very emotional response to the contents of that letter. From there, we move on to Olivina. Olivina and Ulred find themselves entering the home of the Metagai. The Metagai, as explained to us by Medigus Aloysius Almori, what a name to say, are a group of mages and scholars who have decided to find a way to learn the secrets of magical healing and how it interacts with mundane healing. We learn that Olivina is the apprentice of one Medigus Willowwalk, who is unfortunately not there to greet her. This probably has something to do with the fact that her ship voyage took a little longer than expected. But she is invited to stay at the home with Medigus Almori. Now, she also is inducted into the Order, where she will learn how to cast healing magics. I think, by the way, this is a wonderful way to explain why a ranger would get magic, especially healing magic. Now, while we're learning more about Olivina and the meta guy, another visitor appears at the house. It's Tolo! He is looking for meta guy Metagus Corina Madvale. Tolo reveals that he has met Metagus Madvale before and has come to this location to finally meet face to face for possibly the first time. We learn pretty quickly, though, that his particular Metagus is also out of town. In fact, they don't even live in Baldur's Gate at all. They live in Neverwinter, so it's kind of odd that Tolo has been able to track her scent to this location. Metagus Almori promises to reach out to Metagus Madvale, because Metagus Almori did not know that Tolo was even going to arrive, to maybe see what should be done about this situation. He then charges his new apprentice, Olivina, to take care of Tolo for the evening. So, they head to rest. Tolo has a dream in the middle of the night about the many-eyed horror again, and he wakes up to find Metagus Almori standing over him. Ah, old man! Metagus Almori has reached out to Metagus Madvale, and it turns out, it turns out that Metagus Madvale has no idea who Tolo is, so Tolo gives some information about his backstory. Tolo was raised in a culture in which the males and the females of the Tabaxi people were divided out into duties, and Tolo found himself often put with specifically the female caste. Tolo, realizing that this does not feel right for him, steps by his father's side when a group of bandits come to attack their home, and even though Tolo was able to assist in driving off the bandits, Tolo was rejected by his father for having stepped out of line. Tolo then goes into how he stands on a cliffside, roars out their frustrations to the universe, and is given, in return, magic. So this kind of explains the wild magic barbarian portion. Also, he gets a super sweet, big flowing mane, or at least, what amounts for a mane for a teenage Tabaxi, because remember that Tolo is very young. But we'll get there. While receiving this magic, Tolo heard a voice, and he knows this voice to be Metagus Corina Madvale, and through that interaction, that quick interaction, where he is told that he is destined for more, he smells that scent of orange lavender honey. He decides at this point to leave his society and go out into the large, wider world to find her and thank her, and possibly get some more information about what exactly is going on, what destiny awaits him. After revealing this backstory to Corina Madvale via Sending Stone, the Metagus Almorian and the Sending Stone with Metagus Corina head out, and Olivina and Tolo kind of have a moment to sort of decompress from that powerful backstory, and ultimately we reach the conclusion that the leader of the Order of the Metagai has passed away, has died through their experimentation. You see, they had noticed that the way that cure wounds and the various cure spells that bring back hit points don't seem to match up with any of the knowledge that they have about surgery, about medicine, and about healing magics. It works differently than the rest, and they had this theory, the leader of the Order had this theory, that this was less about healing and more about pockets of time manipulation. It's not that the wounds are healing. It's that this particular section where a wound would be taken back in time to where it was in a state that was no longer injured. That is interesting. Metagus Almori decides that Tolo is also going to be welcome in the Metagus home until Metagus Madvale can arrive to sort of sort through this situation, because again, Metagus Madvale does not ever remember meeting Tolo, so there's a little bit of oddness there. Both of which are granted fine reading material and are given the opportunity to, after a long rest, level up. We have seen a few bits of backstories for some of the characters, primarily then Olivina and Tolo, but we still have the rest to go. So this episode is kind of best thought of as, I'd say, part 1 of 2, maybe 3. I'm not sure how long this is going to last. But, hey, we're learning more about the characters, and that's pretty interesting. I'd like to talk to you about things I found good about this episode, things I went, at this episode, and overall, what questions I am most looking to have answered. I love seeing terrain setups on the table. They had like a little city, kind of city block built out, and I thought it just looked wonderful, very striking. They didn't use it, but it was very cool to see. Just a little thing, Asher's frog bag. At one point to pay the hostel keeper, the innkeeper, she tickles the tummy of the frog bag, and it burps up. Burps up her coins, which I just thought was a delightful little. Herringons are fey creatures, and just what a fey thing to happen. I love that little moment. Speaking of the hostel, Brian made the decision that to sleep in these terrible conditions, they had to make a survival check. And from a game rule perspective, I think that is a delightful way to handle party members who want to stay in the cheapest place possible. Like, yeah, you might get your rest, or you might have a bad night. What a solid mechanic. I'm a mechanics guy too, so love that. The Godless Cleric of the Meta Guy is awesome. I love seeing different ways to view class abilities. And Brian bringing in the meta guy who gain clerical power through the belief that their work is important rather than giving supplication to a deity. I love that. Now, I will say I would prefer that the meta guy, subclass, if it existed, kind of be something separate, but it doesn't matter, but that's not necessary. I just like what he's doing here. And I think it really gives a new way to view these abilities in the world. And I also love the idea that people think about these things. People in the world think about how this works. They don't just accept this is what it says in the player's handbook. They start to really dive into what these things can mean. Also, then getting the classic evil uncle story, I think that's awesome. I think that's delightful. We haven't learned a lot about Ven. Ven was kind of a very stoic character, I'd like to say. And I really thought that it's great that we're getting a lot more of him, because I think David's portraying the character very well, and I want more of it. So learning that he's going to get that classic evil uncle story, very, very happy. Next, I kind of want to talk about what I didn't love about this episode. I feel like we got half an episode with this. We get some of the backstories of some of the characters, and we mainly really just get 3. 48 minutes is a little bit of time to put a lot of information into. And this is, again, the nature of the beast. We've got 6 different characters with 6 distinct backstories. So trying to fit all of that into 48 minutes would rob the players of their moment to shine. So again, this is a necessary evil. It does kind of suck. I wish instead of just starting off with Flick and then saying, get out of here, Flick, like immediately, I thought it was weird. I figured, maybe they would have just kind of set it up for the end to be more of but we'll find out more next episode. But instead it was just right off the bat said, bye, Flick, see you later. I feel Dridian did kind of a similar thing here because we really didn't get much information about him. He immediately punted the ball right back to Asher, which is fine, but it's okay. I'm looking forward to next episode as a result. So hey, this is going to turn into a positive. Things that I'm intrigued by. What's happening with Flick? Where is he going? What's he doing? Is he meeting a warlock patron? I'm still on the warlock thing. Dridian. What's that all about? What is his business? We learn that he doesn't want to be here, but we don't know anything about his business. So I'm still on the what's going on with Dridian train. I am very curious as to what's going to happen with Ven and his uncle. Is it an evil uncle? Okay, I keep saying evil uncle, but maybe it's not. Maybe there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. The house had a cockroach infestation. We had to close it down. I don't know. Who knows? But why did he declare him dead? Who invited Ven here? A lot of questions surrounding Ven's story. What was in that letter for Asher? What did her sister have to say? Very curious about that. Tolo. I am not going to put words into Carrie Payton's mouth. I listened to the backstory that he gave for Tolo, and I explained the backstory pretty well using the words that he used. But I am curious, is the story of Tolo a story of the transgender experience? I don't know. But I think it's going to be interesting to see and watch it play out. I'm curious on the level up conditions. Each one of them, 2 of the characters out of the 6 have received a book, and they've been told that once they read this book over the course of a long rest, they will gain a level, which I think is pretty cool. So I like it when level ups are tailored to the characters, rather than just, the Final Fantasy ding, and you get a level in the middle of what's going on. So I do appreciate that there's some thought into how the characters will level up and what that looks like, what that feels like in the world. How does the world reflect that game mechanic? I am most interested, above all, how are they going to bring all the characters back together? We have business, we have mysterious blind bird walking through the streets, we have a sister issue, we have missing meta guy, we have strange mysterious confrontations with meta guy, we also have a evil uncle storyline. So where is this going? How are we going to bring them all back together? I'm very curious to see how that's going to happen. And I think that this is going to really show the mastery of what Brian is trying to do here and present to his players. So, looking forward to it. Thank you for coming and with me to talk about Encounter Party. Next week, Encounter Party will air on December 19th, 2023. Let me verify that. Yeah, December 19th. The next episode of Encounter Party airs December 19th at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully you'll be there to watch episode 7, because I'll be there the next morning to talk about it. Thank you again for joining me. Hey, just so you know, I'd greatly appreciate it if you hit that like or that subscribe button. Or also I have a Patreon. It's in the thing. I don't like to talk about the Patreon, whatever. Anyway, I look forward to seeing you next week when we will discuss episode 7, the continuation of the Baldur's Gate arc. I don't know what to call this arc yet. We'll find out more as time goes on. Anyway, have a good one.